Tybura's both wrestling and his jiu-jitsu game. Just so high level, submission wrestling style. I mean, not like a traditional wrestling style, but just so high level that it's pretty difficult for me to see Corey Anderson survive in that. So I mean, I would even take Teixeira by a TKO or something like that, or a decision. Either one of those, I see Teixeira winning the fight. All right, moving on to a ranked matchup. Excuse me. My voice a little bit scratchy here. In the heavyweight division between number 9, Marcin Tybura, and number 13, Stefan Struve, a real veteran of the UFC there. Both guys have lost their last 2 fights after winning before that. Marcin Tybura lost earlier this year in February. He got knocked out by Derek Lewis. That was the fight that ended up getting him the Ngannou fight. That was a third round KO and a damn good fight for Derek Lewis, honestly. And then before that, last November, he lost a decision to Fabrizio Verdum, another 3-rounder there. And before that, he had a decision victory over Andrei Arlovski back last June, a little bit over a year ago. Standing at 16-4, 7 knockouts, 6 submissions, relatively well-rounded there. Only 3 fights that he's won have ended up going the distance. 6'3", 78-inch reach. Big reach there. Not necessarily going to matter in this one because we all know he's fighting the Giant. I think he's the tallest UFC fighter of all time. Still, I'm pretty sure. Tybura seems old. He's just 32. Struve seems really old. He's just 30. So, I mean, I guess they kind of cancel each other out there. Brown belt in jiu-jitsu, fighting out of Jackson Wink. Pretty close to the best gym you can go to, I would say. As far as game planning and all that. Maybe for us a hobby or something as well. But yeah, Jackson Wink is, I think they're probably the premier. And on the other side, Stefan Struve, the Giant. Like I said, 7 feet tall, 84-inch reach, the second most of all time, other than John Jones. Back-to-back losses for him as well. He lost earlier this year in March, unanimous decision to Andrei Arlovski. And right before that, last September, he was knocked out by Alexander Volkov. That was a pretty interesting fight of the night there. He actually looked pretty good in that fight, but Volkov obviously catapulted higher up. Struve just barely hanging on to the rankings here at number 13. His last victory was in 2016, October of 2016, so almost 2 years ago, where he submitted Daniel Omelianchuk with a Darce in the second round. His record 28-10, obvious veteran, 8 KO, 17 submissions. So you see what he's trying to do. Obviously, with the lanky arms and legs, the Darce, for example, perfect example there. You pretty much have to have long arms to be able to do that. That's just kind of. He's 7 feet tall, for fuck's sakes. He's at 84-inch reach. You know what I mean? That's a major factor in that. I don't know that he's necessarily technically the best grappler. He's only a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, allegedly. But, just able to submit people to is just incredible length. And he's going to be fighting out of the Black Zillions, or whatever they're called now. Combat Club Florida, or whatever the hell they're called. I can't remember it. But I should probably know that. But anyway. I don't like this fight for Struve. Tybura has some knockout power. He can also submit. He beat Arlovski, who beat Struve, all within the last year or so. That knockout to Derek Lewis really hurt Tybura because even the Fabrizio Verdum loss is not a big deal. He's been recently a champion in heavyweight. I'm pretty sure he was the champion right before Stipe. So, I mean, I lean heavily to Marcin Tybura in this fight. He's a minus 260, massive favorite. Stefan Struve's going to get you a plus 200 if he wins. Me, I'm taking Marcin Tybura by knockout. I think he knocks him out. I think he just gets inside, gets him to the ground, probably knocks him out. Struve probably is going to be looking for submissions off of his back quite a bit. That'll be the main problem, I think, for Tybura. I don't really see a striking advantage at all for Struve. I mean, he does have, obviously the reach, but his KO rate is significantly less than Marcin Tybura, whose KO rate isn't even really that high anyway, either. So, Obviously, the danger going to be for Tibura is to keep the neck out of the elbows and all that shit, and be careful looking for the triangle. Obviously, the Darce, he has a pretty significant setup of submissions there. And as long as he does that, I can see him winning with a knockout or a TKO or something like that. Maybe a little bit of ground and pound or just something more, along those lines. But go ahead and give me Marcin Tybura for the money. All right, moving on to the middleweight division. We have, this is where it gets a little bit seedier, I'll say. Not necessarily. I guess we're done with all UFC rankings at this point, if that gives you any idea of what I'm talking about here. But we're going to let's break down the fight here in middleweight division, like I said, Vitor Miranda. Two-time K1 kickboxing champ versus Abu Azaitar. Miranda coming off of back-to-back losses, and it's been a long time between each fight. His last fight was June of last year, unanimous decision loss to Marvin Vettori. That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad considering how much, prospect he came in with. Obviously, he's a K1 champ. He's a black parade in Muay Thai. Brown belt in Jiu-Jitsu with the Nog brothers, and he's fighting out of Team Nogueira. Really, really underachieved in MMA in general. Just 3-3 in the UFC. And not the finest of opponents here that he lost to. Before that, it had been another year before that. So we're talking about May of 2016, more than 2 years ago. He lost another decision to Chris Camozzi, bit of a journeyman in the UFC. Again, not looking too good. We are 2.5 years removed from his last victory over Marcelo Guimarães. Second round, head kick, punches, knockout combination. But like I'm saying, that was March of 2016 was his last victory. He is 12-6 as a pro, 9 knockouts. That's obviously going to be what he's doing. 3-3 in the UFC. He's going to be standing 6'1", 77-inch reach. It's not bad. 39 years of age, though, not getting any younger. On the other side, we do have someone a little bit younger, not too much, but a newcomer to the UFC entirely on this side. Stringing together victories, pretty well so far. He has been in the World Series of Fighting for his last 2 fights, and then ACB, I can't remember what that is, but it's one of the European Championships, I believe, before that. He is fighting out of Cologne, Germany. Elite Training Center there is the name of it. I believe he's Moroccan-born or Moroccan heritage, German-born, something like that. But also, he is possible, anybody who believes in ring rust, he might be facing some as well. His last fight in MMA at all was in October of 2016 in the World Series of Fighting. Unanimous decision victory over Michael Arendt. And before that, he had another World Series of Fighting victory in April of the same year, 2016, over Danny Davis Jr. So we're, a long time removed here from any action for Abu. And you combine that with the fact that he's never fought in the UFC before, never fought anybody even the level of a Chris Camozzi or something like that. All that being said, he's 13-1 and 1 draw. So really only 1 loss on his record, 7 knockouts there. So about half of his fights that he wins, he's knocking people out. I don't know how much of it he's going to want to do with Miranda. He's going to be shorter by 3 inches. Pretty big guy, relatively thick, but, and he's going to be younger by 7 years, so I guess that's going to be working in his favor. Based on everything I have just said here, you'd probably assume that Miranda is the favorite. He's actually not. Probably, because of that record. Azaitar at a -200. Vitor Miranda is going to get you a +160. I think Miranda wins the fight. This really is a terrible fight for a main card. I'm guessing that it's really just because of Vitor Miranda's name in K1 and everything that it's going to be on the main card there in Germany. But I'm going to go ahead and take Vitor Miranda. Knockout. I mean, one of these guys is probably going to knock out the other either way. But I'll go ahead and take Vitor Miranda with a combination. Kick-punch combination knockout. I don't know about the money. I mean, +160 seems pretty good for a guy that looks like they should be the favorite. But, Who am I to say? I actually haven't seen much of Abu. I've really only seen um, highlights of the two World Series of Fighting fights. I haven't even seen his Azerbaijan championship or whatever it was. But yeah, go ahead and give me Vitor Miranda in that one with a KO. All right, we got two more fights to talk about here. Second to last, or I guess it would probably be the second one overall if you actually are watching it chronologically. We've got a lightweight matchup here between two. This is a good fight between two up and comers, both of them with power. On one side, you have Nasrat Haqparast, and on the other side, you got the bad man, Mark Diakiese. Haqparast only has the one UFC fight. That was a decision, unanimous decision loss to Marcin Held, October of last year. Before that, he was 8-1 when he came in with 8 knockouts. So obviously he's going to be sitting at 8-2 right now. 5'10", just 22 years of age, from Afghanistan, fighting at King's MMA. He's going to be making the trip out here with Shogun, and obviously the rest of their crew, Rafael Cordero and whomsoever else. And before his UFC debut, let's see, May of last year, a little over a year ago, he had a TKO, just some heavy hands, of a guy named Ruslan Kaliniuk. That was third round. Before that, he had another one about 5 or 6 months before that in, I don't even know, some crazy MMA organization, basically, from the Middle East or something like that. Over Patrick Barisha, second round TKO, punches again on that one. Obviously heavy-handed. Every single fight he has won has ended in a knockout. So 80% of his fights he's knocking people out so far. Obviously not the highest level of competition. Marcin Held, unanimous decision over him. Marcin's probably in the middle of the lightweight division. Right now it's not necessarily, not at the highest level right now. But Haqparast is young. He's got a lot of time to do some learning and shit like that. On the other side, Diakiese was like the prodigy. Man, he was everybody's favorite person in 2017. He has suffered back-to-back losses, though, kind of taking things back a little bit. His last fight was in the New Year's Eve show last year, December of 2017, where he lost to Dan Hooker with a submission, a guillotine submission in the third round in a fight that I thought he was probably winning. But it was a good fight overall anyway. And then before that, in the July 7th card of last year, he had a split decision loss to Drakkar Klose, one that I probably agree with, but Diakiese looked pretty damn good. Those were the first two losses in his career. Before that, he was 12-0, 6 knockouts, including a performance of the night knockout of Timo Packalin last March of last year, first round KO. That was vicious. He's 3-2 in the UFC. All of his fights coming in the past, 2 years. 5'10", same height there, 25 years of age, going to be 3 years older. 73-inch reach. I couldn't find the reach on Haqparast, but I'm going to guess that it's probably in that same range somewhere. Maybe a little bit more. Well, maybe not. Usually 5'10" is probably in the 70 to 73. But purple belt in jiu-jitsu for Diakiese. Not his strength by any stretch of the imagination. Just a super athlete. Physical freak. He's a knockout artist. Haqparast is a knockout artist. Heavy-handed. Not the athletic freak that Diakiese is, but just heavy-handed. And then Diakiese's going to be fighting out of ATT Coconut Creek. This might be the best fight on the entire card. Looking at it right now, well, you got to think that Teixeira Corey Anderson fight might be all right. Got to like that Miranda Ozaitar fight, I think, and then obviously this Haqparast Diakiese. This is going to be the best card in my opinion, or at least the one that I might be looking forward to watching the most. Diakiese is going to be the favorite, -185. Haqparast coming in at a +150. I think that's probably about right. I'm taking Diakiese because of the UFC experience, the better UFC experience at least. He's got 5 fights in the UFC, 3 of them he's won. Obviously, Haqparast just 0-1 in the UFC and a tough decision loss last year, to Held. But I'm going to go ahead and take Diakiese this year. This fight, I'm going to take him by knockout. I think it's going to be a banger back and forth. One of these dudes is likely getting knocked out. I'm taking Mark Diakiese. Don't fuck with the money. Just taking Mark Diakiese for the dub. Alrighty, we move on to the last fight on the main card. Another fight that was bitten by the injury bug. Alan Jouban was supposed to be in this fight. He has a neck injury 5 days ago or so.